Howdy, folks, and welcome back to the Practical Microservices stream here. It's good to be back after a weekend. Hope you all had a lovely couple of days there. Let's see, where are we in this whole process? Well, first announcements. We are going to do the meetup this Thursday instead of the following Thursday because that would be Thanksgiving Day in the United States. That's where I happen to live, so I'm not going to be streaming that day. No, not streaming, doing a meetup. I might still stream that day. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to get that posted today because time is running short there. And what we'll do for it is some of what we've done here on the stream. Sorry, my focus is there. That's better. Let's fix that. But talking about snapshotting. So if you've been watching this stream for the past couple of weeks, we've worked through how to implement snapshotting for an entity with event tide. And we'll do that like the condensed, slightly more condensed version at the meetup, and then eventually probably make a YouTube video about that. Anyway, so what are we working on right now is, let's jump into that here. And Past Me left this little helper message. That's so nice. I don't think that is quite the right size for the text. The monitor, so my setup here, I can't like pick up the camera and show it easily, but I've got a Mac that I do all the typing on, and that's what you see, like this part of the screen. And then I have a different machine where OBS is running that, you know, that's OBS, you know what it is. Anyway, so the fun part is that the screen that I have for that streaming machine has, well, let's just say not retina level resolution, and so I can't tell if the text is too small or if it's just the monitor that I'm looking at. So if you're in the chat and you're looking at the text and you're like, that's too small, please feel free to drop that in there so that I can increase the size. But where we left off was we were looking at the event model here, and we're changing the initiated handler in the composite component. It was handling the initiated by immediately writing retrieve commands for all the clips that it needs to fetch off of the devices that we're simulating with a sleep 15 down in that component, or some number of sleeping. I think on the stream I set it to 1. Just it wants to sit there for a minute and a half every time that we run it. Anyway, so that worked. Like if we ran the component like that, the device video component is idempotent. So when it receives multiple retrieve commands for the same clip, it doesn't duplicate fetch them. But as was pointed out in last month's meetup, there's an operational cost to that. So every time we restart this component, some number of initiated events are going to get rehandled, recycled, as we say. That's expected. That's why we have to make the components idempotent. Because in a messaging world, you cannot guarantee exactly once delivery of messages, but you can code in such a way that you get exactly once semantics, as if it had only been sent once. And so what that means, though, is suppose you had a clip that had 100 minutes in it, or not a clip, but a composite you're trying to make that had 100 minutes of video. When that initiated gets rehandled, we're just going to write another 100 retrieve commands there. And so yes, from like an academic pedagogical point of view, there was no need to fix this component to do that. And this component is not intended to be taken as is and deployed to production. But I would like to, well, how would we fix that? How would we make mention of the fact that we've already sent the command so that we don't try to duplicate send it in the future? So that's what we're working on. And to do that, we introduced one thing to the design and then somewhat of a convention to our modeling here, which is loosely inspired by event modeling. We have this one message here that leads to 2 messages being written, and we understand that can't be done atomically. So what we're trying to say is this event is pointing to this box, meaning that handling this event means that we are going to write more than one message. We're going to do the retrieve command first, because since we can't do them atomically, if we write retrieve sent and then we crash before we wrote the corresponding retrieve command to the device video component, well, then we may miss sending the command to retrieve the clip that we need. And that would be bad. That would mean we would never build that composite, which is what we're trying to avoid. So we're going to write the retrieve and then write this retrieve sent. And yes, we could fail in between there, which means that every now and then we will write one of these duplicate retrieve events. But I'm willing to accept that every now and then that happening versus every single time we are going to write those duplicate events. I'm going to say there isn't a way to write atomically across streams, which in the like, if you want to not pull all your hair out and hate your life sense, that statement is true. In the could we actually technically pull it off sense, well, no, you could. It's in the same database. But don't do that. Like, yes, we're using a relational database to back this, but that doesn't mean that we approach the thinking and the design as if we're using a relational database. We approach it as if we're using a message store that uses streams, and in such a storage mechanism, streams are the partition points. So we have zero expectation to be able to do anything cross-stream atomically. If you need that, well then do it all in the same stream. Talk through the trade-offs. Enough here, so let's just go ahead and continue with the code. And where we were with that was we were building this partially requested control for our composite entity. Because what we need to do is, I think, I remember this was Thursday or Wednesday of last week, so my memory is fallible, just like every other human's. So we have in our test automated handle events for handling the initiated, and if I remember correctly, we actually did the golden path for writing the request sent event. So let's just have a look at that real quick and make sure that is the case. So we're handling the initiated event and it's the retrieve scenario. And let's see. So let's go to the top here. We are doing our setup here. We do the handler and then we get access to our retrieve writer and we add our composite to the store there. And then we come down to our retrieve sent. Yes. Okay. So we are with our current test, and I bet, let's see this real quick. Did we spin it up already in, no, what is it called? Table plus. Not sure. Okay, we don't have the message store running. So yeah, I'm going to go with the test is there. It's correct. And so we are writing that retrieve sent. And one inconsistency I see is within context retrieve sent, that's where we're grabbing the reference to the writer. I would like to be consistent and down here in the context of our retrieve commands. Whoops. Let's put in fetching that real quick. So, all right, that is a little more consistent. So what we were doing now was, let's open the right browser there. So we want the writing of this retrieve sent to also be idempotent. So if we have already written a retrieve sent for a given clip, we don't want to write that again. Otherwise, we're just kind of right back in the same position that we were, but now with extra messages. So that would be making it worse. So what we're trying to do is set up a test where we have 3 clips involved with the composite, and we would like the entity to be in the state where I think I was saying let's move this down to 2 clips, but whatever, we'll just keep it at 3 right now. We'll have 2 of the clips have already had the request sent event written for them, and 1 where it isn't, because I think that will cover all of our bases there. And so what we would expect to see in that case is that we write 1 retrieve command and 1 request sent event, and we do nothing for the other 2 clips that we care about because, well, we've already sent the request for them. So with that in mind, then let us jump back into here. And this is the note that I left. So how do we represent that some of them have been requested? The way that we've been tracking what has been done and what hasn't been done right now, this top left file, this is our entity class here. We have an array called retrieved minutes. And we just, when there's a method, we call this in the projection when we have retrieved, a certain clip, and we just add the start minute of that clip to that array. So we just have a list of minutes that we have fully retrieved. Now we need to track an additional state for each clip. That is, yes, we've requested it versus no, we have not, as well as it has also been retrieved. So the little breadcrumb past Ethan left for right now, Ethan, is, well, how are we going to represent that? Will it be a similar array? We could do a parallel array and just come up here and be like, those are the retrieved ones. Well, these are the requested minutes. That's an option. We could also do it more like the device video component. Let's go look at that real quick. That has, first of all, the same snapshotting problem that we've been addressing in the composite component. And once we finish with the composite component, we'll come here and fix this one. But this one has an object for all of the requests that it receives. And so when it receives a request but hasn't yet fetched the video, it makes an entry in there and uses the symbol requested to track that, oh, this clip has been requested by this workflow. And then when the video has actually been fetched from the device, then we use this retrieved here to handle that. So we're using an object whose keys are the workflow that requested it. And then the value is either nil because it hasn't been requested or retrieved. And then, or we have this requested symbol for when, okay, cool, we got the request. We're working on fetching it right now. Or we mark it as retrieved to say it has been retrieved for this workflow. Therefore, we don't need to re-notify that we retrieved it for that workflow. So I'm liking that approach more for what we're doing up here. So instead of adding another array, changing this to a hash whose keys are the start minutes. And so if there's nothing in there for, if the value is nil, so if you try to combine value and nil into a single word, you get vil. That's kind of cool. But if the value is nil, that means what? That we haven't written the request sent event. So we would write the retrieve command, or sorry, the retrieve sent, right, is the name of that. Let me look at yes, retrieve sent. If the value is nil, that means we haven't written the retrieve or the retrieve sent. If the value is retrieve sent, then that means we've sent the command, we've written the event, but we haven't heard back from the device video component yet that we haven't. And then lastly, we would have the retrieved state, which means, okay, and we have retrieved the video. So this clip is taken care of. And so the kind of logic that's going to have to change here, this change is going to break a number of tests, and that's fine because we're making a substantial change to the entity. It's only going to be tests with the entity though. And this is why we didn't couple the handler to the logic of how we're actually storing these things. The controls will change as well. No, because the controls have been using the same methods that the projection is using. So that shouldn't have to change. The projection won't have to change for the existing functionality, but there is additional stuff we need to add now. But the most of what changes is going to be contained to the entity itself. Predicting that if we did it correctly, then that's going to be the case. We may have made one mistake with the start minutes method that we use on the outside. So that teaches us maybe we shouldn't have done it that way. Anyway, here we go. Let's jump into what we're doing here. So the plan is to first get this handler test written, and then that will pull in the changes that we need. So we don't want an initiated composite. We want a partially requested one, which is what we're working on over here in this file in the bottom left. And so what we were doing here was we're starting with an initiated example, And this code right here, we just copied from the initiated control, which is found right above here. So some of these lines are now, we don't need them again. So let us, you know what we could do here that would be fantastic is this already accepts an optional composite ID and then uses it or generates a new one. So rather than having this line in there again, we could just pass the composite ID right there like so and get rid of that line. This is all going to be set by the initiated control, so we don't need any of those. Now the question is, how do we get the composite to know which of its start minutes have been requested already? And so let's see here. So mark the first 2 start minutes as requested. That's what we're after right now. We don't have a method on the entity to do that right now because that's literally the change that we're making. So we're gonna write this and it won't work. So it's like retrieve sent is what we want to mark and then put in a start minute there. This behavior doesn't exist yet, so this is where we are going to close this window and close this test, and we need to go do tests in the entity itself right now. So let's open our entity right here and received. That's a bummer. I bet that test is named incorrectly. There was when I was working on this, I kept confusing received and retrieved, and it seems that has persisted to the name of that file. Let's open up that test real quick and see what it is. Yeah, sorry. Let's just change that real quick. Retrieved, and of course English and its wonderful rules about I before E and all that. If I knew Brian Regan's work better, I would have just quoted it right there. So I guess you all look out in that case. We're looking at composite, and this is the received one. Test didn't break, so now it's time to rename it. Test automated composite received. Whoops, when you move it, you have to give it a new name. So we want test auto. Oh, I don't. Turn that volume down. That little beep is annoying me. No idea if that showed up on the stream, but sure showed up in person. And so we want this to be instead retrieved like so. Now if we run that test, we are still good. Fantastic. And then just part of my workflow here, I forgot to reinstall the gems just in case there's a change. Continuous integration. I'll let that run and then just do a git diff to see if there were any versions that changed. There are some. Okay, hang on a sec. Can we... Okay, so no versions changed that I can tell. I'm going to go ahead and just do a commit right now with that rename and those changes that we made. So let's add test automated composite retrieved. Have a look at our status again. Yeah, so let's just get that as a separate commit. So renamed composite retrieved test file. Yeah, that's good. Let's go with that. We'll push that up. That way our change won't have 2 different things in it. So what we need here is a request. No, it is sent retrieve. That's the method that we're testing right here. So I nearly made that a markdown file, which why would I have done that? I have no idea. Just gonna grab all of that real quick into the buffer. Test automated composite sent retrieves, paste that in there as a starting place. And we are doing sent retrieve. Yep, we'll need a start minute for that. We'll need a composite, but we would need an initiated composite for that. Grab an example there. And then I am going to get rid of those lines because we want to write just enough tests for this to fail. And here's where we would have our first one. So sent retrieve for the start minute. Have we sent the retrieve for that? So if we run that test, we should get that sent retrieve doesn't exist on our entity class. Test automated, composite, sent retrieve, and composite initiated doesn't exist. Oh, right. Because I'm using the actual composite, not a control there. There we go. Sent retrieve, no method error. Fantastic. All right, so let's come down. Ooh. And let's drop it in right behind all of these retrieved ones. Although temporally speaking, this would come first, so we'll put it there. So sent retrieved, and that would be for a start minute. And let's just say it hasn't been retrieved. No method error. Oh, right. Sent retrieve is what we're after. Like so. There we go. Okay, cool. We are passing so far. And so now we would do something on the composite and for the start minute. Like so. I don't believe we have that method on here. So now we should get a no method error on sent retrieve. Indeed, that's what we got. So let's add that. Def sent retrieve for the start minute. Now here's where we start breaking things. I'm going to mark right there and go back to the top of the file. Retrieved minutes is the method that we've been collecting things in. Oops, I just remarked that. That's funny. So where are we? We're a little bit further up right here. So retrieved minutes. This is the thing I was considering changing to a hash. The question is, would we call it the same thing? I'm going to go with yes for right now. But here's my question. So this collection array, it gives us an array, a typed array. So it's a construct that is it part of Eventide? It's in the Eventide repositories, but it would have application outside of Eventide. So it's an Eventide thing. It gives us a way to say, here's an array, and right over here, we can say it's an array that should only contain strings. We've been using it to store those string representations of the start minutes of our clips. Fantastic. Okay, now we want to hash. And let's see, right. We can't look at the device video component. It just uses a plain old Ruby hash that isn't an attribute. So I want to go to the collections gem and see if it has some sort of a typed hash that would be more interesting for us. It looks like the collections are not part of the main documentation here, which isn't surprising because, again, they're not specific to message-based microservices. So I'm going to leave that open because we'll come back to it. Message DB, snapshotting. That is the one we've been using. This is from another guy named Ethan who came to the stream a few times. Send grid. Wow, I still have that open. Huh? That's from early on. Let's use this telemetry one. Right? You don't want to just make new tabs. There's a finite number of those in the world. Just let that absurd statement hang out there for a while. All right, so type check set. There is also, this library probably could use some more documentation love, but that is okay because honestly, it's not that hard to work with. I mean, we want the documentation there, but it's not going to stop us today. So this collection here, we have set and array. This does not seem to have any notion of a hash. So we may just be using the plain old Ruby hash, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. Just wanted to see if there was a type architect one that we could use. So what's generic here? Oh, that's how we do the type checking for the sets and the array. Yeah. Okay. So this isn't the right place for it. We're just going to use a hash then. So we just say it's a hash like so. And then the default value for it. This is actually kind of important here. So I'm just going to do a hash, or we can just go like that. What? So by passing the proc. Okay. If you're declaring an attribute and you don't do a proc for your default value, it will take whatever your default value is and do a clone method on it, which is something Ruby provides. So if your object doesn't respond well to being cloned, like shallow copies or whatever, keep in mind what that means when you do your default. If your default is a proc, though, it will invoke the proc and hand back whatever you do there. So what that means is, in this case, we know we're always getting a new hash. But if we just had, say, some hash like that, then that particular hash would get cloned and such. So I think it's just safer to do that. And actually, I got asked by someone, I didn't know, I'm new to Twitch, that I've been having the same title for every stream, which means that the recordings of these end up having all the same titles. So if you ever wanted to like go back and find a particular thing that we talked about, you can't do it because they all say the same thing. And so I want to like actually take notes of interesting things that we talk about in the stream. So let's see here. Interesting, of course, is completely my subjective judgment. So I accept that. So let's see. We just talked about default values for attributes. And we did that at, I don't know, 30 or so. Use a proc or else the thing gets cloned. See that? The method name is in the backticks, getting that like, hey, this is a code. Then we still put a D on there to make it past tense. That's that style right there. Anyway, how do we get on that? Right, we were switching this to be a hash. So, sent retrieve. Actually, we could just leave that blank and now our test will pass. Now we just need to put in here an assertion. That was neat. When you miss home row, sometimes it's like you just get fun things. So we want to make sure that it is marked as sent. What I'm trying to say, that the thing thinks we've sent the retrieval, so it reported that we've sent the retrieve command. I don't want to like, I nearly typed in there something that was like the exact symbol that we expect it to be, but that's some fairly tight coupling there. So all we're looking to say is that assert composite.sent retrieve for that start minute. I don't know if that's annoying, but I really love in Ruby question marks can be part of the method names, and dang it, I'm going to read them as if it's English. Hate fluent APIs, but I'll still read those as if they're English. All right, this should now fail the assertion because in this test, having done nothing to the actual entity, we are expecting this method for this value to return both true and false at the same time, which of course can't happen. All right, so now we need to make sent retrieve do something so that sent retrieve. The fun part about the question mark thing is that I remember to do that halfway through saying it every time. And so you get this weird mishmash of, is everything okay in his brain right now? Probably not, but like that's not the reason why. Anyway, let's go here. So retrieved minutes is our hash. So we have a reference to that. And we want to, or equals that with our sent retrieve symbol. And I think that's all there is to it. No. We don't want to set that equal to it. We want it at start minute. Start minute. You may think, boy, that was really fast the way he came up with that clever implementation. Oh, interesting. I just set that to, unless request has key. Right, because it could be explicitly set to nil. So yes, no, in fact, I did not come up with something clever really fast. I came up with something incorrect really fast. I like the way that worked there. So instead of request, this is retrieve minutes, like so. And that's what this would be as well. Retrieve I spelled minutes wrong. That's neat. And there's no workflow. So let's just get rid of that. Replace you with start minute. And you would be sent retrieve, same name as the event. I think that's fine. And start minute would go right there. So what we're saying is we mark something as the retrieve having been sent. We're going to check that hash to see if it has a key for the start minute. And if it does not, we're doing an unless. I like unless. I know some people in Ruby don't like unless. I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like unless else. That's just absurd. But if there's something like QX unless Y, like, I don't know, that reads so well to me. I much prefer that to the corresponding if not. Like, I don't know, I like it. It's my project. If you don't like it, you can start your own stream. All right, I think that is good. Let's make sure it's still just the assertion that's failing here. Nope. Retrieved minutes is what that is called. That's why we ran the test again. Okay, it's still just the assertion. That's what we expected. Now we need to make this actually work. So we have sent the retrieve in 2 cases, which means we're going to need another test. Shoot. We will have sent the retrieve if retrieved minute at start minute is equal to sent retrieve. There is another case that we'll probably eventually get to where if it has been retrieved, we have also sent the retrieve, but we pull that into existence with our tests. And what just went wrong there? So this is not correct. That should be like that. And neat. That's some neat syntax we're trying out right there. Okay, cool. So that method works. It wasn't that complicated of a method. Took a lot of time because I talk a lot while on stream. That's fine. Now we just need another test that handles the sent retrieve, but for the case where we have already retrieved it. And guess what we have in place for that? We have this retrieved test that we could now answer both questions with it. You ready to see some explosions though? Watch this. Let's try running the test with that big change that we made. Boom, lots of things blew up. That's all right. I know where at least one of those is going to be, and that's in this retrieved test. So let's go back there real quick. Test automated composite retrieved. All right. So to unbreak this test, we don't actually have to change any code in the test because encapsulation. Yay. Let's run Ruby test automated retrieved and retrieved minutes.add. That doesn't work anymore. So we are going to, if it has been retrieved, we want to override anything else that is there. So we don't need to do this check at all. So we are just going to come right in here and change you to start minute, rate, and set you equal to retrieved, like so. So we were getting an undefined add on there. Now what should we get? Find does exist on a hash, I think. I'm not sure what it returns something's going to go wrong here. I think what's going to happen is the might actually work. Actually, I don't know how the hash find works. So let's just run it and see what happens. The assertion failed. Okay, so this find was returning false. What does the hash find do? Ruby hash find 2.5. I really wish that the latest versions are what showed up on Google. Google, get on that. How do we change? We have to go to home. There we go. Ooh, that looks different. Hash. You have a find method? You don't. Oh, but it's enumerable. Our hash is enumerable? You know what? Whatever. This isn't the implementation I want for it anyway. What we want to know is if retrieved minutes at start minute equals retrieved. That's how we tell. If a tap in, test. Oh, that was disappointing. Great. Look at that. That passed now. Just out of curiosity, did that fix all of these? Didn't. Well, it was worth a hope. Some of these look really strange here. Huh. Okay, well, we will dive into those right now, because that's the next thing that's blocking us. So is that what I just ran? And I just like, let's run it again, just in case something is different. Handle events initiated ignored. That is the one that we are actually working on right now. I don't expect that one to pass, so I want to get it out of the output here. So handle events initiated ignored. Here is a neat little TestBench trick. I think you just go like that. You can look at that. So let's find this ignored string in here. Retrieved ignored. Initiated ignored. I think that's unfortunate. How do we there? See how that's yellow there? Right. I struggle sometimes with Vim and Tmog, so let's just scroll up here. By putting that little underscore in front of the context block, let me go back and look at that right here. That signals to TestBench, hey, ignore this for right now. That was worth. Let's make a note of that. That was good to talk about. So let's see. Underscore in front of context in TestBench ignores that context, which is fantastic because the actual context itself was called ignored. We did that at what, like, I don't know, 43 minutes into the stream today. Great. All right. I'm also going to upload all the recordings I have of all the stream to YouTube and put like the notes of what we talked about in there. One thing I'm considering the YouTube algorithm. I don't really know how it works. Do I make a separate channel for all these, or do I just put it up under my own channel? I don't know. Probably at my scale, it doesn't make a difference anyway, so we can always change it later. Because, right, who's going to watch all of these and I post all these videos? Whatever. Fine. We got that working. Let's get this test. So this is the test automated handle events initiated retrieve is not working. So, whoa, don't click that. All right, so what do we have? Let's go to the first one. As the Mad Hatter says, we'll start at the beginning, and when we come to the end, we'll stop. So retrieve one, retrieve was written, did not work. Test automated handle event. Retrieve. No, not retrieve. Initiated retrieve. This is where we're working. So it would seem that something that was previously being written is no longer. And might be because of this all retrieved method. I don't know, but that's what we're going to find out. So, nope, that couldn't matter for this handler. Anyway, so let's see here. That's the start minute, device video ID. I doubt any of that would be an issue. Let's open up the handler, which is right here in handlers, events, and let us put a binding.irb right here and run that. We do hit it. So what start minute are we looking at first? 0 with 1. Of course, that's what we'd see. Okay. And then we hit it again for the first and then the second. And then if I hit it again, we'll just run and get our test failures. Well, that's strange. I did also move that line where we grab a reference to the writer to a different place, but I can't imagine that's the issue here. That would just be silly. And we're not doing any checking to see if we've sent this or not. But that was working, was it not? This is really strange. This would be the time where it'd be fun to revert back to where we were, but we hadn't actually committed what we had in progress, so I don't think we can do that. So it's line 76. This is failing. We never wrote this event. Because of that, nothing else matters. Well, look at that little trick. Let's just do that to have less output. Oops. Well, that's not right. Oh, I see. There is another context we need to ignore to silence things. Also, this is annoying right now. What do we get? Okay, great. So we just have our one thing. Let's get that working again and figure out what is up. So what is it that we are actually expecting to have written? That the command was an instance of device video client messages commands retrieve, and that it was written to that command stream name. So the question is, first, is it because nothing was written? So let's put a binding IRB in here. If we don't hit that, then that means nothing was being written by that client writer. Nothing was being written by that client. What? No, that can't be right. Right. That was fun. Handler.retrieve equals retrieve client. Oh, I guess this didn't need to come down here, did it? Oh, yes. Okay, that's me misunderstanding something. Let me just put this back in place and then... Okay, yes, this was not an equivalent statement to this, which should have been obvious because you'll notice in this one, we're getting a reference to something on the handler. In this one, we're setting something on the handler. So, the issue is, let's scroll up and find, we make a new instance of our device video client retrieve. Great. And then we take that instance and assign it to the handler.retrieve on the handler. By moving that down below where we actually actuate the handler, when the handler ran and it goes to get its retrieve, it's like, oh, I don't have one. Let me make a new one, which means it's using a different instance than the one that we need for the purposes of the test. So I think everything will go all nice and correct ish. Now we're still gonna have some problems because we did change how the start minutes are stored, and oh, I don't like this. I wish it had been, let's iterate over the composite, but there was some other reason why I didn't do that, because I didn't want to have to reassemble the list of them, but whatever, here we are. So let's put that in place and make sure one test runs successfully. It did. Okay, well, that's neat. Let's check out our attributes then. This I don't like. Not one bit. Oh. I think it's going to work, but for a reason that I don't like. It accidentally worked. Okay, so you can call each on a hash, and it may be that the block gives you key, comma, value, But since the start minute itself, those are the keys of the hash, that works. So let's just try that out real quick. So if we had A being A and B being B dot each, and I think K V for key and value, and then we first of all hit the correct character there, and then did key comma value like so. I could also just look this up in the documentation, but yeah, okay. So that's why it's working. Really don't like that. I'm uncomfortable with that. We change that. What would we change it to? Well, when we first wrote this, we did something more along the lines of composite start minutes. Like we still wanted to call that. And then we went like so. And we put all the code below in there. Like that. Wow, really having trouble hitting that type key there today. Anyway, that worked great in this particular handler, but there was some other handler, or no, it wasn't in the handler, was it? It was in the entity implementing the all retrieved. So let's open the entity real quick. I believe that is this file. Yeah, it was really nice to be able to easily get the array of start minutes and use them in this method right here to just be able to say start minutes dot each. Which wouldn't be hard to just be like, please. I think that's something on a Ruby hash. Ruby hash key. Class hash. Method keys. Guessing that hasn't changed from, you know what though? This is what's wrong with me. Actually, look at it. Keys returns a new array containing all keys in itself. Yeah, so we're gonna put it back. Oh wow. Or we're just gonna like show the desktop. Either way, we're gonna put it back. That should now make this test fail. Oops, that's opening IRB again. Great. Failures. Methods not being written and assertions failing all over the place. Yeah, that's what we want to see. Because we didn't actually do any of the writing, we passed a block to a method that doesn't do anything with the block. And that's all right. Start minutes. You receive an action. And what do we want to say? Like, you have to have the action? Or, yeah, we're going to raise an error. Let's see, start minutes requires an action if action dot nil. Now there's an interesting thing with raise here. I work for use Rubocop. I'm not a fan of linters that much. But the question was Ruby, you can do fail, which we've used for our preconditions, and you can do raise. And in reading about this, what if I reverse the order on those a bit? Oh no, I would have seen that on my work machine. So like Rubocop says with its default settings, always use raise, never use fail. But there was this wonderful gentleman, Tim Wyrick. Might have talked about this on the stream already, but I don't think I ever met him, but I knew some people who did, and they said he was one of the sweetest human beings that ever lived. But what he said was, Use raise when you're re-raising an exception. Use fail at the place where the exception is actually triggered. Like we're failing for this reason. And you get to do arbitrary things like just say that's how you're going to do it when you run a stream. So we're just going to say fail right there. And now we should get a failure because of that. Start minutes requires an action. Beautiful. Okay, so we come down here to our... Wait a second. Fail if action dot nil, but we passed an action. Did I not save this? There must be some other place where we're calling it. Composite. Oh, right. It's in the entity here. So on line 28. Oh, right. That's where. Initiated. Handle events initiated retrieve 17. Ah, that's where we're getting the list of the start minute. I see. That's also nice to have for the test as well. Maybe it's like each start minute would be the actual go over them. Because what's the trouble? Like the difficulty is that we don't actually store a list of the start minutes anywhere. We store the start and the end, and then we just infer the rest from there. But this needs a list of the start minutes. The outside world can use a list of the start minutes. That's very helpful to have. What am I trying to say here? We changed how they were represented. Well, that's the retrieved minutes that we changed. Oh, wait a second. I'm silly. Hang on a sec. No, this thing working, it wasn't using a hash. I am so silly. Start minutes is a list of start minutes. So no. This whole thing was a pointless endeavor. I did not like the idea that this worked because I thought it was using our hash that we changed from a list to a hash, but that's not what this is using. The start minutes method just says, give me a list of all of your start minutes, even though however you do it, like the caller doesn't have to know that what we're storing is the start and the end. It's just saying, I have a way to give you every start minute that makes up this composite. That worked because that stayed a list. So, oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. We'll fix it in post-prod. I'll make sure to delete that whole 50 minutes. I won't. That's it. You come here, you get the raw experience, and that's good stuff. So let's see. What do we get now? That ran. Fantastic. Did I comment out anything in here? Oh, go back. Something seemed off. Ha! There we go. That's what was off. So, are you working now? Oh, metadata. See, I knew it. Why did I not see that when I was stepping through it? There we go. That works. Let's run the full test suite again, because that's what we're working on. Start minutes.keys. I think I just put that in there for funsies. All retrieve is def all. What? Okay, let's actually look where that is. So that's at line. Oh, that's in the handler. That's why I'm not finding it. Here we go. So all retrieved, each. Okay, that should work now. Yay! All those tests passed. So what did we just learn there? There was an embarrassing misunderstanding of what we actually changed. I'm not going to pull that out into a clip, but that's just going to be in the notes of what we covered in there. All right, fantastic. So what have we accomplished? We have these two distinct states now. So we can tell for a given clip that we have sent the retrieve command and that we retrieved it. Those, we can now differentiate between those two in the entity. And I gotta say, okay, so yeah, hang on. What? Oh, that was, I wanted to close the entity. Okay, I made a prediction that if we had done our encapsulation correctly, then we wouldn't have to change the handler. Now, I thought we had to change the handler, but that's because I was wrong. The reality of the situation is we made that structural change in how the entity represented its retrieved minutes, and only the entity had to change. We didn't even change the entity tests. We had to add a new test, and we are going to make an addition to one of the entity tests because we need to make sure that the new functionality works. But like, okay, I'm patting myself on the back for something that's probably very obvious. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying like I discovered some new technique here. It's just, you hear things like, don't tightly couple to interfaces. Don't ask objects for details of how they do things. And that's why, because we had less to change because we respected the interfaces that we have. So I don't know, that's pretty neat to stumble upon. What are we doing? Right, we have the test for the entity here. So test automated composite. It's retrieved test Ruby test automated composite retrieve. There we go. Oh, neat. An extra T there. The NSA recently said that Ruby is a memory safe language, so for security reasons it's good to use, but I notice they didn't call Ruby out for not working if they misspell it, so I don't know, can you really trust them? Anyway, so this test here, it's marked retrieved. That is right, marked retrieved. We would also like to make sure that it is marked sent retrieved. And here is where this one will now fail. Yes, great. So let's come to the composite entity right here. And this was like all the way back at like 15 minutes into the stream. Was making the point that we're saying that we have sent the retrieve if the state of that start minute is sent retrieve. However, we have also sent it if, right, we can't have received it if we never sent the retrieve in the first place, so that should now pass. Oh, if we did our syntax right, what did I do wrong? Is it because the, is that the, isn't JavaScript? We put that there. Works in JavaScript. Oh, we failed. Why did we fail? Oh, right, because that's an and. Should be an or. Oh, that still didn't work. That's not good. All right, shoot, we gotta actually debug that now. You can always trust the NSA. How do I know you're not a bot, SB Ditto? Welcome, by the way. Good to see you. I can't see your face right now, and even then with how the technology has advanced, what would that even mean? This is annoying me right now. So let's see here. We mark the start minute retrieved right here. No, right here is where we mark it. And marking it retrieved should set that to retrieved. Oh, typo. Okay, see that? That should be retrieved. But that makes me think something else, like that line already exists somewhere. So why don't we just ask the start minute, have you already been retrieved? There, that's better. Let's roll with that. Okay, neat. So we are at time, and I want to be respectful of everybody's time, my own included. I need to get back to my day job. So let's come back wherever we had that neck in there. That was in the composite control. So let's see. This question has been answered. We're using a hash with states sent, retrieve, and received. So the very next thing we need to do is continue along these lines. So let's get rid of you and you and you. So mark the first 2 start minutes as requested, and then we will also need to modify the projection like so. We can just put that in there, and then I'm gonna like, I guess the tests are all passing because we commented out the one. Remove the context in the handle events initiated ignored. So that's where we're going to come back. So what we achieved today was we in our design we added this retrieve sent event that we're going to write in response to the initiated handler. In setting up the test for this handler, we needed to be able to have an instance of the entity in a state where some of these have been retrieved, or the retrieve has been sent for 2 of the clips and not for the 3rd one. That didn't exist on the entity, so we said, okay, well, let's go modify the entity to do that. So we switched over to the entity tests and pulled those methods into existence, went down the tangent because I read the code wrong, but it's there in all of its glory on the recording. So now we are finally set up with the pieces in place that we need to modify the handler to not write multiple retrieve sends, because it doesn't do us much good to not write multiple retrieves if we just replace those with multiple retrieve sends. We'll modify the handler to be idempotent against that. Then we will update the projection and its tests so that we can see in operation that this isn't happening. And then from there, we will have made all the changes we intended to make in this component based on the feedback that we got from the meetup last month. And then we'll proceed to make the similar snapshotting changes in the device video component. And that's pretty rad. So yeah, meetup is going to be this week, Thursday. I will get that posted today. Back to the place where we have it, make sure that's still all right. Worst case scenario, it will be fully online. It's nice to have that option, but I don't know, in person's better, in my opinion. With respect to what, Ethan? Community, socializing, bandwidth, all that kind of thing. But yeah, gonna end it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Good to see you, SB Ditto Bot. Hope you're having a lovely day, and we will catch you next time. Happy coding, folks. Right, folks, if you liked what you saw there, be sure to hit the like or subscribe button, or go pet a puppy. I don't know, whatever floats your boat. But do come check out the stream most weekdays from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. Mountain Time. The link is in the description. Hope to see you there. Have a lovely day.